Maher unleashes a blistering, no-holds-barred rant against Democrats, delivered live on television. He rips into what he calls their over-the-top political melodrama, arguing that the left portrays America as a country in total collapse and claims Trump election sent the nation back 50 years. Maher pushes back hard, saying that narrative completely distorts reality, and steps in to set the record straight. Buckle up, this one explodes fast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more intense clips like this. Bill Maher opens by highlighting a group often ignored in today's political conversation: undecided voters who don't neatly fit into either major camp, Democrat or Republican. He compares them to last-minute Christmas shoppers, hard to read, seemingly disengaged, but ultimately the ones who decide where it counts. Maher argues these voters aren't driven by ideology, party loyalty, or non-stop online outrage. They're practical, worn down by extremes, and tired of political theatrics. He says Democrats make a serious mistake by catering to a small but loud fringe, mistaking noise for real influence. Instead of chasing applause from activists already locked in, Maher insists the party should focus on persuading swing voters who actually determine elections. Winning, he says, isn't about pleasing the loudest voices, it's about earning the trust of the quiet majority still making up their minds. Maher says many of these voters aren't undecided out of confusion or apathy, they choose to be. They haven't committed to a party or candidate because they're increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the modern left. What was once a movement grounded in reason and science now, he argues, often drifts away from both. Ideas that clash with everyday logic are treated as moral absolutes, and simple questions are dismissed as taboo. For voters who value common sense, honest debate, and evidence-based thinking, this shift feels alienating. Maher stresses that these voters aren't secret conservatives, they're fatigued by ideological extremes and cultural rigidity. They feel lectured to, shamed, and ignored for questioning prevailing narratives. As a result, they remain politically unaligned, waiting for a party that communicates clearly, respects facts, and prioritizes practical solutions over symbolic purity tests. Maher argues that this sense of frustration is most visible within the democratic movement, which often seems perpetually dissatisfied no matter how much progress it makes. Victories are never treated as finish lines, only as starting points for the next demand. Achievements once hailed as historic breakthroughs are quickly dismissed as insufficient or outdated. In this constant push forward, Maher says common sense becomes collateral damage, brushed aside as old-fashioned or even unethical. He notes that the left fought hard for gay rights and succeeded in achieving broad legal and cultural acceptance, a genuine accomplishment. But instead of consolidating that progress, the focus swiftly shifted to more divisive cultural battles, including gender policy and fairness in women's sports. For many voters, this raises a simple question Maher says Democrats refuse to answer: where does it end? Maher says the critique resonates because the modern left often frames issues with a constant sense of urgency and alarm. Relatively modest problems are elevated into existential crises, while ordinary disagreements are treated as emergencies demanding immediate panic. He argues there a tendency to turn small sparks into sweeping moral battles, making even limited disputes feel world-ending. He points to the climate debate as a clear example, noting how increasingly apocalyptic language dominates the conversation, with activists predicting catastrophic outcomes far into the future. While Maher acknowledges environmental concerns are real, he argues the non-stop doomsday framing drowns out nuance and shuts down rational discussion. The same pattern appears across social causes, where gains are dismissed, progress is minimized, and the narrative insists society is worse than ever. Maher counters that many indicators suggest the opposite, that we are safer, more inclusive, and more prosperous than before. Still, he says parts of the modern left rely heavily on outrage-driven messaging instead of measured perspective. Maher argues that the data tells a far healthier story about America than many left-leaning narratives admit. He points to statistics shown on screen, numbers intended to cut through the constant gloom and doom messaging. If those figures are accurate, and Maher sees little reason to doubt them, then the outlook is anything but bleak. Poverty has declined, unemployment remains low, and gas prices have stabilized at levels most families can handle. The broader economy continues to show resilience, with steady growth and consumer confidence holding up despite global uncertainty. Yet Maher notes that this progress is often ignored in left-wing discourse, which tends to favor crisis over context. His point is simple: when measurable indicators are positive, claiming everything is falling apart damages credibility. It's possible to acknowledge real problems without denying real progress. In Maher's view, the data is clear: America isn't collapsing. It's functioning, improving, and moving forward, even if that reality makes some people uncomfortable. COVID was undeniably one of the most difficult chapters in modern history, disrupting daily life and shaking the economy in ways few had ever experienced. Businesses shut down, jobs vanished overnight, and uncertainty dominated everything. Yet despite how severe that period was, the country adapted and rebounded. Supply chains recovered, employment surged back, and entire industries reinvented themselves just to survive. Maher argues that this comeback matters because it reflects resilience, not fragility. America didn't collapse under pressure, it adjusted, learned, and kept moving forward. That's why, he says, the left shouldn't fear progress or treat it with suspicion. Progress isn't something to apologize for or minimize, it evidenced that systems can evolve and people can recover. Rather than remaining locked in a constant state of crisis, Maher urges recognizing momentum and acknowledging success when it appears. Growth and recovery don't erase past pain, but they do show that pessimism isn't inevitable and that progress deserves recognition, not resistance. If this was Maher's attempt to defend Kamala Harris, it comes across as oddly scattered and unfocused. In trying to make his point, he ends up doing something else entirely, highlighting how Biden-era policies have delivered tangible benefits for both citizens and the country. He points to economic recovery, job growth, and overall stability as outcomes tied to the current administration approach. But that only muddles his argument. If Maher's claim is that Harris isn't meant to serve as a safety net for struggling Americans, then what exactly is he saying? His own examples contradict that idea, showing government action actively helping people through difficult periods. Rather than clarifying Harris' role or strengthening her case, Maher creates confusion. The segment feels less like a defense and more like an accidental endorsement of Biden's record, leaving viewers unsure what conclusion they were supposed to draw. Maher argues that the Democratic Party fixation on crisis-driven messaging is beginning to backfire, weakening its ability to connect with voters. By constantly depicting the country as on the edge of catastrophe, the party struggles to present a positive, compelling story. Even when accomplishments or policy ideas are promoted, the non-stop tone of fear and urgency dulls their impact, especially among undecided voters who are skeptical of exaggeration. Rather than engaging those still making up their minds, Democrats often spend more time attacking Trump and alienating anyone who once supported him. While that approach energizes a loud base, it does little to persuade the politically uncommitted, who tend to look for solutions instead of partisan warfare. Maher says that if Democrats want to win the middle, they must stop punishing voters for past choices and start offering a hopeful, practical vision for the future. Bill Maher's commentary delivers a stark, clear-eyed assessment. America isn't the disaster the left often portrays it to be. He argues that undecided voters are put off by extreme rhetoric, ideological overreach, and non-stop crisis talk. These voters aren't inherently conservative, they simply value common sense, practical solutions, and visible progress. Yet the left continues to chase a loud fringe, inflating social issues and policy disputes in ways that risk alienating the very voters who decide elections. From the post-COVID economic recovery to real gains in employment, poverty reduction, and overall stability, Maher stresses that progress is real and deserves acknowledgement. At the same time, Democrats' fixation on attacking Trump and dismissing his supporters weakens their message and fails to persuade the undecided middle. Maher's takeaway is straightforward. Fear-driven narratives and rigid ideology aren't winning strategies. Reason, practical solutions, and real-world results are what earn the middle trust. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.